Today, the Catholic world mourns two priests many are already calling heroes. What began as an ordinary day suddenly turned into a powerful testimony of faith and charity that is moving thousands of believers. What truly happened deserves to be told in full. Stay with us. When something so big happens, words become few. Not because details are lacking, but because, faced with certain gestures, the news fades and makes room for something deeper. In recent days, on the Pacific coast of Ecuador, two priests performed an act that many faithful are already remembering as a radical testimony of Christian charity. Not a speech, not a sermon, but a concrete act that took place in a few moments and which today is moving the local church and beyond. It all happened during a parish activity organized during Lent. A group of priests and altar servers had gathered in the coastal town of Playas in the province of Guayas for a time of retreat and fellowship. It was supposed to be a simple day: prayer, sharing, a few moments of relaxation by the sea. Nothing suggested that that day would turn into one of the most dramatic and at the same time most shocking events in recent times for the church in Ecuador. At one point, some kids enter the water. However, the waves become stronger than expected, and the situation changes rapidly. Two young altar boys begin to struggle in the sea currents. Within seconds, it becomes clear that this is no longer a game or a simple swim. The boys are unable to return to shore. It was at that moment that the decisive gesture occurred. Two priests present with the group realized the situation and reacted immediately. Father Alfonso Aviles Perez and Father Pedro Anzoategui did not hesitate. Without waiting for help or overthinking the risk, they leaped into the sea to reach the boys. It was an instinctive action, almost natural for those who felt they had lives to save. The waves are strong, the current is unfavorable, but the two priests still managed to reach the young people and help them. Thanks to their intervention, the boys managed to get out of the water and return to the safety of the shore. The lives of the two altar boys are saved. But while the boys manage to save themselves, the situation for the two priests becomes increasingly difficult. The current drags them far from shore, and the force of the sea makes it impossible to easily turn back. In a matter of moments, the operation that had saved two young lives turns into a tragedy. In the hours that followed, news broke that deeply shocked the local Catholic community. Father Alfonso Aviles Perez lost his life shortly after the incident. Father Pedro Anzoategui was initially reported missing. The search continued throughout the night until his body was recovered the following day. Two priests lost their lives while trying to save children. The news spread rapidly throughout Ecuador's Catholic communities and the dioceses involved. The reactions were immediate: grief, disbelief, but also a profound sense of respect for what had happened. Many faithful emphasize the same point. It was not just any accident, but a gesture that has the flavor of testimony. Of the two priests, Father Alfonso Aviles Perez immediately draws particular attention for another reason. Throughout his priestly life, he was known as a man deeply connected to the tradition of the Church. Parish priest of the community of San Alberto Magno in Daul, he had dedicated many years to pastoral service, the training of altar boys, and the life of his parish. Father Aviles also celebrated Mass in the traditional Roman rite, which many know as the Tridentine Mass. For many Catholics attached to the ancient liturgy, this information is not secondary. He is described as a priest who had always defended the continuity of Catholic tradition and the centrality of the liturgy in the life of the church. However, this wasn't an ideological position. Those who knew him described a priest who was primarily involved in practical pastoral work, catechism, Eucharistic adoration, family support, and the formation of young people who served at the altar. And it was precisely with some of those young people that he was when everything happened. Father Pedro Anzoátegui was also a priest very close to the daily life of local communities. Ordained in the Diocese of Guayaquil, he carried out his ministry alongside the faithful, especially the young people of the parish. Many recalled the fact that both priests had no hesitation. There was no calculation, no waiting. Faced with two young men in distress at sea, they simply did what their human and priestly instinct dictated: to intervene. And this gesture today is read by many as a powerful symbol. Because in Christian life, we often speak of charity, sacrifice, and love for one's neighbor. But these words risk becoming abstract if they aren't embodied in reality. In this case, however, charity took on a very concrete face. Two priests who chose to intervene to save children, even knowing that the sea can be unpredictable. The Church of Ecuador expressed its condolences and invited the faithful to pray for the two priests. The parish communities involved are experiencing days of great emotion. Many speak of a painful loss, but also of a testimony that will not easily be forgotten. At a time when news about the church is often tied to controversy or internal tensions, this story tells something completely different. It tells the story of two priests who did exactly what the gospel has always asked of Christians: to put their lives at the service of others. Faced with a situation like this, the church can do nothing but pause in silence and pray. For this reason, today, many faithful are raising a prayer for Father Alfonso Avilés Pérez and Father Pedro Anzoátegui, so that the Lord may accept their sacrifice and grant them eternal rest. We also pray for their communities, for their families, and for all those affected by this tragedy. And we ask the Lord that the gesture of these two priests will not be forgotten, but will continue to remind the world that Christian charity is not just a word, it is a life given completely. If you liked the video, comment Amen. God bless you.